Welcome back to another episode of Hobby Time in the Murder Basement, where today I get to sit down and talk with Mocha from Mocha's Minis. She is one of the most chill, fun Twitch streamers I have yet to see. Stick around, we have a great chat. Welcome back, everybody, to the Murder Basement. I would like to introduce you all to my guest today. We have Mocha from Mocha Minis. I found her from a recommendation from Eenieminis. I was like, I want to talk to people that you want to hear from. Please recommend some people to me. And I was like thinking that she would send me people that I knew, you know, and she sent me like 3 people that I had never heard the name before. And I was like totally embarrassed. I was like, the algorithm has failed me. Thank you so much for joining us in the basement today. How are you doing?
Of course. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Heath. And a shout out to Eenieminis for you know, sending you my way. I think it's really cool. I've really enjoyed listening to your interviews, and hopefully I can be as entertaining as some of your other esteemed guests. So I've got my coffee, so I'll be talking. I don't know if the words are going to make sense, but we'll talk.
You know,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if anything actually has to make sense in the Murder Basement. You know, like we've had like quantum physics discussions in some episodes. We've just had straight up business discussions. I talked with Kit from Game Envy, which goes up tomorrow. That gives you kind of an idea of when we did it. And his we got into business discussion. I was like, this is great. I love this. Every episode is different.
Fair enough.
So I did my due diligence, tried to do some research on you. You have won several awards for your painting, and as I've hopped in and watched your streams silently and also acknowledging that hey, I'm here, hi, you have this amazing temperament about you that is infectious, because you're just everything's happy and we're doing this thing, and you're painting incredibly difficult non-metallic metals and stuff, where I'm sitting there gritting my teeth and cussing the entire time. You're just oh, hi everybody, how you doing? And it's so hard not to be moved by that, especially in an era where everybody is tense. Coronaviruses seem to leave all of us all a little grumpy. You are this ray of light that is just wonderful to be able to sit down and enjoy your work. So 1, thank you so much for that. 2,
thank you.
How much coffee does it take to keep that up? Because I'm just blown away.
Right. Well, it's funny. You know, we're first off, thank you for the compliment. That is an incredibly kind thing. It keeps me motivated to keep doing that. Because yeah, you're right. Recently, it's been tough. And even I've had some times where I just haven't had the energy, and I don't have any energy to put out there that's positive. And one of the things that I like to do on my Twitch stream is, really interact with chat, be positive, be peppy, and have some fun and not take it too seriously. And it's definitely fueled by coffee. So I'm glad that comes across. But also you'd be surprised to know I actually this is half calf. So I am extremely, sensitive to caffeine, I guess is the right, I think, if you have coffee and then can take a nap, you're super attenuated to it. It doesn't bother you at all.
Right.
And this half calf at 6 o'clock at night could keep me up until 2 a.m. So there's definitely a level where if I have the perfect amount of coffee, I'm happy and peppy and bursting with love, but I can also paint and I'm not shaking all over the table and the paint spilling. So there's a fine line. Otherwise, if I don't have it, and in fact we had a stream I think about 2 weeks ago where I had an accidentally decaf. Accidentally decaf is probably what I would name my new metal band. But yeah, it's I was so boring, and I was like, this sucks, man. Why I'm just not feeling it. I'm not really talking too much. And then I went and I checked because I was going to make a second cup, and sure enough, it's decaf. And I thought,
Oh,
there you
no.
go. So for me, it takes 1 cup of half calf. But if I just want to be a total spaz and talk your ear off the entire time, I would have 1 full cup of coffee, and I'm good to go for like 5 hours of yakking away.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So
I know
how
that's
long?
not very normal.
Well, like I wish I was like that. I have a caffeine sensitivity the other way. Like I need a lot to get me going, but then like my hands go numb. Like it
Oh
constricts
yeah.
all my blood vessels, and so like
Mhm.
at work a couple years ago, I was like having problems with just like my guts kind of felt weird. My hands were not as attenuated as they should, and like I'm a picture framer. And so I'm dealing with glass. And one day I just was like, I had cut my hands a ton on a piece of glass that I didn't even know that it happened because like I just didn't have the feeling. And oh my God, like I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And my dad was like, well, I just had to quit caffeine because it makes my heart want to drop out of my body. You should probably look at it because him and I have a lot of similar health things. And it was like, within like 2 days, like, oh, all my feelings back. Now I can do these things. And it sucks because I love coffee. I love tea. I love caffeine.
Yes. Cheers to that. And yeah,
Cheers.
I hear you with the health stuff. I know with hypertension and high blood pressure runs in my family, and there was a time where I was drinking a cup of coffee like every 2 hours, where I was that person. I was traveling all the time and working like 70-hour work weeks, and it was just, I'd drink coffee in the morning, and it's like I'd have another cup and then another cup at lunch, and then I'm having a
Yeah.
cup at 4, and it was like if I didn't have coffee, my natural state was just like comatose, like
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
just out, I was just asleep, like there, but I wasn't sleeping well. And when I went to the doctor for like, I don't know, a physical, they were like, you need to cool it on the coffee. Your blood pressure for your age is out of control. And they put me on blood pressure medication. Like it was bad. And I had to give up coffee completely for over a year. And
Whoa.
that's, yeah, like just all of it. And yeah, it was kind of crazy, and luckily I got it balanced again.
Figured it
But
out. Yeah.
that's why I'm so sensitive to it now, is because luckily I haven't gone back to that level of like just constant caffeination. But it does affect me pretty quickly, so I have to cool it sometimes, so I'm not.
Chill it. Yeah. The
Yeah.
the one thing that I found when I did start getting back to coffee is I no longer had like the enzyme in my stomach to help protect from the acids, and it
Oh
like
yeah, that'll mess up your stomach.
yeah, went straight to heartburn zone, and then like I had like an actual ulcer. Like it just like ruined. Like so now I'm just like, I just don't do coffee unless if I'm on vacation, and then like it's very sparingly now.
Nice. Yeah, it can mess up your system. I mean, when you think about it, I used to drink coffee on an empty stomach in the morning, and now if I do that, oh, it does
Yeah.
not go well. But I also just tack that up to just getting old. So,
Right.
I think there's a
Yeah.
little bit of that too. My
Our
body doesn't
bodies.
bounce back
No,
as
not
much
at
as it
all.
would.
Yeah, I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30 now, and I'm like, whoa, like I'm right now sitting cross-legged in this chair because like it feels good to stretch my legs out.
I'm
Ex-
I'm I'm sitting half cross-legged, but
yep.
also like with the foot on the ground, so I can just spin
Just
around if I need to. Yeah, whatever works,
we're
right?
doing
If
it.
you
We're
see me like sideways, let me know, because it means I'm just like sitting on like one side, and it's not great for my back, but it feels good to stretch your legs.
it feels great. My knees now don't bounce back from that. You're just like, this is the worst.
Yeah, you could sleep the wrong way and wake up and your knee doesn't work, and you're like, when the hell did this happen? Like, what? It's yeah, it happened on the 4th anniversary of your 29th birthday. That's when it happened.
Right. No,
Right
that's
when you're starting to round that corner.
yep. That is it. I realized, yeah, once I hit by the time I was 35, I was like, oh man, these things are not the same. It's not the same anymore.
Oh,
Mocha,
well,
tell me,
uh-huh.
how do you find yourself spending time painting like tiny little soldiers on Twitch all the time? Like where did that start? Because this has been like so new to me. I just totally ignored the Twitch community for so long because like I was just like this is for video games. And now I'm like thrilled to see like this like really active, very supportive community on there doing this thing that like I never thought anybody would want anybody to watch. Like how did you get introduced to the idea of mini painting? Where did that happen?
Sure. Well, where do you want me to start? I guess how I got into mini painting at first, or how I got into, I guess, the Twitch, because they're almost kind of two different stories.
Two different stories that most people they are, and I think start from the beginning is the interesting thing, because like how people find fantasy and sci-fi, it's always, I always love like we all have such different stories, but there's always like a commonality in there. It's great. So yeah, like sure. where did that all begin?
Well, on the 21st day of 19... No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I didn't discover mini painting until I guess a couple of editions of D&D too late. So long story short, I dated this amazingly geeky guy in college, and he's now my husband, but back then when he was my boyfriend, we had been dating for like, I don't know, about a year, I think, at least a year. And at one point he pulls me aside and he's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. What have I done? I don't, what? So I'm like thinking like I did something wrong. I don't know what happened. And he says, so I lied to you. And I'm like, here it comes. Like this is it. And he said, remember all those times I said that I was going over to Ryan's house to study? And I was like, where's this going? He said, we weren't actually studying. And I'm like, please help me.
Yeah.
But he says we were playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, ah!
It's almost worse. Like, you should have been cheating on me.
Ryan. No, yeah. But that's the funniest part. They had this great DM, and he'd play music, and he just was a planner guy, and he had this brilliant creative mind, and he was, first of all, patient. I think that's the first wonderful thing about any DM. But they'd play Dungeons and Dragons, and of course, growing up, I was a geeky kid, but I'd never really been introduced to that. I played with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I played a bunch of video games, but tabletop gaming wasn't really something other than like Life, or I don't know, Monopoly, stuff like that.
Right.
So he told me a little bit more about it, and he was so afraid that I would judge him. He was like, I was so sure you were going to break up with me when you found out that I played Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, what kind of a person do you think I am? I mean, yeah, sure. I don't know anything about it. Tell me more.
I have seen that happen, though. I have seen people like expose, like, mainly because they were like so repressed that they were like went hard into their like kind of like nerd kink at that point, and the other person was like, this is too much, like, and so I've nerd kink, yeah. Now like I have to like. After seeing that, I'm like, I'm gonna like be really upfront. I like playing Magic the Gathering. I like superheroes. I like comics. I like video games. You should know these things about me.
I'm just gonna put it out there so nobody wastes our time. Yeah.
Right. I also don't want kids. There are like certain things, like if that's gonna be a problem, we need to know this right now. It's in the same level.
Like you're at a bar and you just like tell somebody that, and they're like slowly backing away, like too much, and like maybe I took it too far. I don't know, but yeah, here's my pamphlet, my 16-page, no, but yeah. So I was happy that he was able to tell me that. And he's like, I've never been able to tell anybody else that I was dating this. I didn't feel comfortable with them, but I wanted you to be a part of it. And so that's when I learned about it. We got a gaming group together. We had since moved to a different city, so he wasn't able to play with his old buddies. Yeah. And we played 4th edition, which I'm told is half an edition too late, 3.5%.
Right.
But yeah, he loved it, and so he showed me the miniatures and the character sheets, and how he described it that wasn't as intimidating. It's like, if you ever gone to like an improv show, sure. Yeah, and you go to an improv show, they give you a situation, you have your character and your persona, and you are that person throughout the end of the skit. And you just go on the fly, you interact with other people. It's basically like that, but for an extended period of time. And I thought, oh, that's cool. He said it's more interactive storytelling than anything else. And that's when I started to have a greater respect for it. And I tried playing, but I'm really easily distracted, as I guess anybody who has known me for 5 minutes will know. But I'd also get stage fright playing my character.
Sure.
And yeah, I wouldn't be able to kind of get out of myself. Everybody else seemed to be very comfortable doing that, but it took me a while. But I noticed that I like to, I was really interested in the actual miniatures, and that's when I was introduced to Reaper miniatures, and I bought my mini. And they arrived, they showed up, and I was like, there's no way I can paint these. These are too small.
They're very small, yeah.
Yes. Like, I thought they were going to be like this, but nope. Boop.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I got my Citadel paint pots and my big old brush, and I went to work with like 5 colors. And When the Bard was the very first miniature that I painted, and I still have her around here somewhere. But yeah, and I was so proud. And that's when I just fell in love with mini painting, and that was back in 2010.
Wow.
When I got into gaming, and I painted a couple of years on and off, but I didn't really seriously start getting into it until I think 2015, after I attended my first gaming convention, and I took a bunch of classes, and I just it's something that brings me personal joy. And sure. I've collected plenty of stuff to paint for the rest of my entire life. If I painted a mini every day until I died, I still would not get through all of it. But yeah.
Yep. I hear you. So did you do art before painting minis at all? Was that something that was nurtured in you as a kid, or was it something that you just were like, I am compelled to do this thing?
Oh, that's a great question. So my parents are very creative. They're both musicians, and as a kid,
nice.
I loved music and art, and we'd have craft nights when I was a little kid. My dad used to do a bunch of studio recording, and I'd have my Little Mermaid coloring book and my box of 64 Crayolas, and he'd park me in the corner, and he said, when that light turns red, shh. And so I was actually in the recording studio, and I love to color. And I had a couple of meltdowns as a kid, back when you first bought your first Xerox machine back in the early 90s. And I would cry if I had a coloring book and I got out of the lines, because you can't erase crayon.
Right.
So you get like a type A kid who also loves to be creative, and it's a very strange combination. But he would Xerox and just make a copy of the page that I wanted to color, and I'd color that, but I wouldn't actually color in the coloring book because I had to have a backup, because it had to be perfect. I was kind of a weird kid. To give you a level of where I was as a child. I don't know if you've ever heard anybody that bad, but that was me.
I actually had kind of like a similar story. My mom was a music major in college, and she didn't go to college until I was born. And so I was really young. She played French horn, and I would go sit in the symphony orchestra, and I would be painting, drawing on Ghostbuster coloring books to keep me quiet while she would play French horn with the symphony orchestra. And I would just sit there and do that. And that is a really unique thing. So I got kind of weirded out as you were saying that, because as a kid,
not a lot of kids have that.
No, and it's so special because you get to see adults doing something creative. And I don't know if a lot of people get to see their parents do that. They get to see their parents go off to work and come home and be cranky, maybe drink, whatever it is. They sit in front of the TV. They aren't inspired by their parents. And that's so cool that you had that experience as a kid. The fact that really that all their friends were cool with it too. At this point in my life, I probably would be cool with it. But if I was in my 20s, I don't know if I'd be cool with it.
Well, when my mom is a classical violinist, and so we would, yes, so we'd go to the symphony concerts, and one of my favorite things to do, either during intermission or at the very end, was to walk down to the pit, where everybody's down there, and lean over and wave to my mom.
Uh-huh.
And that was so much fun. So I love that you had such a unique and similar experience. But they'd be in rehearsals for a long time, and
Yeah.
your kids out of school, or you take them with you, and you park their butt somewhere and say, do something that's not going to get you into trouble.
Yeah. Please don't
Here's the
embarrass me
coloring
right
book.
now.
Here's the coloring book and some sugar-free candy or whatever. Like, don't talk to strangers. Always be in my line of sight. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I've literally never met anybody else who's had, like a similar experience to that. Because yeah, like I've had friends where their kids grew up in bands around them, so they would just like hang out during rehearsals, band practices, while they're like learning Tuesday's Gone by Leonard Skinner or something like that. Like it was always like kind of old fashioned country rock, like nobody doing the classical stuff. And like I had cassette tapes of my mom's recordings that I would listen to like at school, and everybody's like, what are you listening to, Michael Jackson and all that? Like, no, I'm listening to my mom play like Mozart or something.
Really
Yeah, it's really cool. Listen to this. This slaps. It's great.
Oh, Vivaldi, yes.
Right.
This is the what's the summer? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, and as a kid, you like have all this knowledge, and then you try to relate to some of the other kids, and you're like, hey, so what were you doing last week? Oh man, I went and I don't know, something cool, and here I was like, I listened to my mom play in the Music Man. I can repeat everything, like he's a music man. He's a what? He's a what? He's a music man with a big and a bit. Anyway, yeah. Again, like what I absorbed as a kid did not make me cool. So
Fortunately not.
Right. I mean, I was still absorbing everything around me, and now I can appreciate it. But back then, I was like, man, why did you guys drag me to all the like lame musicals? And everybody else was going out and playing whatever soccer with their friends or football or all the sports things that kids are good at these days. But yeah, I think that really translated into what inspires me. I know when I paint, I love to listen to music, and I love classical music. I love jazz. I love old jazz standards, and I feel like 40% of my brain is just taken up by the melodies from those songs. But it's why I can't learn anything new. I've got Weird Al Yankovic lyrics in my head and jazz standards, and yeah, that's about it,
Just Billie Holiday and Weird Al on repeat.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
It's a good combo.
Oh man. Yeah, that's it's just weirding me out. Like I may not be a big jazz guy, but I listen to a lot of music, and it goes into weird places. Jazz is part of it, but like an unfortunate love of Weird Al that has never disappeared. It just like is constantly there.
Yes, agreed. He's one of the greatest minds of our time. Yeah.
And like we got tickets to see him the last tour that he did before he did like his acoustic tour, and so we got to see him play in St. Louis. And my business partner was married to we knew that they were wealthy. We didn't know how wealthy they were, and so like when they got us tickets, it was like the backstage pass VIP tickets, which we didn't know had like meet and greet. So we showed up like after the meet and greet stuff was over, but like I got to see the Wheel of Fish from UHF. I was like, that's the Wheel of Fish. This is amazing. And they're like, where were you? He was having pizza with us like an hour ago. You could have. I was like, what?
What? Oh no.
But, like probably easily in my top 10 favorite shows of all time. That good. Like absolutely fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, no, another question with, knowing that your mom's a musician as well, which, by the way, my parents always joke that French horns get the best parts. Like in any sort of like it's always the French horns and like, whoa, whoa, whoa. My mom's just like, French horns get the best parts. And she's like kind of bitter about it. It's like
They're
an
really
ongoing
good,
joke.
but they're very hard. They get a very weird key signature that they always have to work in, lots of sharps and always in these like weird off note things. And so like I think that's one of the reasons why listening to her practice, when I write music, I don't write like melodies like standard. Like I'm always on the offbeat. I'm always doing weird things like that, and it's just because that's I think probably how I was conditioned as a kid and just didn't even know it. Like kind of right now, like more realizing it and like, oh yeah, that's why I sing like this. That's weird.
Right. Well, when you compose something like that, I mean, it's why I think that like second sopranos and altos have a really great ear for melodies and building chords, and then you've got the first sopranos are like, I just get to sing the highest note. I don't have to listen to anyone else. And but then again, when you have to come up with something, all they're hearing is melody because that's usually the parts they have written for them.
Sure.
But yeah,
So did you learn any
that's cool.
instruments? Was that something that you did, or but were you just kind of always adjacent, music adjacent?
Um, Gosh, I one of my biggest regrets is giving up violin when I was a little kid.
Okay.
I still remember like, it was the late 80s and I had like my big fluffy, the big bow that you have like made out of like gold crepe or lame or whatever it
Yeah,
was. The
yeah,
bigger the
yeah.
bow, the cooler the kid, right?
Of course,
And
absolutely.
like the big like floral dress that my grandmother had, she was a seamstress and she would make me dresses for my little violin recitals. But like here I am, this like little tiny person, I've got my little tiny violin, but evidently I kicked some butt. But of course as a kid you don't think, wow, I'm gonna be great someday.
Right.
But I did a little
Something
bit of
that you didn't.
piano. Yeah, it's like something that my parents are making me do after school.
Right.
And then when I gave it up because I was like, yeah, I'm really bored. I don't want to practice anymore. And I have no idea why my mom actually let me quit. More power to her because most parents would be like, you're gonna play the violin, you're gonna like it.
Right. Right.
But I kind of lost interest and then I did a little bit of, dance and like I said, piano, but nothing really ever stuck. I wanted to try a bunch of different things, but unfortunately I didn't have the discipline to stick to something long enough to like get really good at it. So
Untreated
like,
ADD. It's like one of
yeah,
the so many of my friends are the exact same way. And like I'm like we all just need something to focus on, and like we go like a couple months and then we lose interest. It wasn't until high school that like guitar finally stuck, and then
oh
like, oh,
good.
I can actually do something. But as kids we were like every couple months something new. You couldn't stick with anything.
Yeah, I think appreciations to our parents for like driving us around to all the different weird stuff that you're like, I want to try ice skating this week. Okay,
All right. Yeah.
sign
Sure,
up
why
for it, have
not?
fun. You fall on your butt enough, and you're like, I don't like ice skating anymore. I want to try lacrosse. Okay, So when you think about like we have all these different hobbies, and we spend all these, I really like this board game, and you spend like $200 on like the Kickstarter that, and then you're like, oh, but look at this Kickstarter. It's like that hobby ADD where you just want to keep doing a little bit of everything to keep your
Yeah,
mind excited. But I have a really hard time going back and finishing things. I think that's
sure.
the follow through for me is my biggest weakness.
So when did you start like doing art, like actually practicing? Because you obviously have had more time in art than just like, oh, these D&D minis are like got my imagination. Just like your color theory and everything is on point.
Oh, thanks.
I like all those things. I'm like, there is obviously more time behind this than just like I'm painting warhammers.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I didn't take any art classes in high school, which because I was busy doing all sorts of other dumb stuff that I never followed through with. But I loved musical theater and stuff, and I sang and did choir and whatever. But
Wait, you did
I
musical theater and D&D didn't work for you? because
Right?
like they're
I
almost the
know.
exact same thing.
I know. That's the saddest thing. Yeah, it's the stage fright that gets me. Who knows? But yeah, I was a terrible actor, actors, whatever. But yeah, I was so bad at it, but I love to sing. So it was like, all right, we'll give her the fewest lines and like the most musical notes. Is there like a part for that? But I think that's where it kind of fell apart with me for D&D. But knowing that I'd taken some art classes in college, so I started getting into technical illustration
Okay.
and wanted to kind of work more in the apparel industry, where you could take a 3D design, and then my job was to break it into like a 2D. Um, you know, I guess, well, an Illustrator file, just anything, a JPEG, there are all sorts of kind of different ways that they needed that formatted. But, to pick stitching and, threads and, do sizing for a small versus an extra large, where the seam's going to be. So I kind of took that apparel design and then made it more of a technical art. But I did take, basic design 1, design 2, drawing 1, drawing 2. And I wish I'd taken painting classes. To
Sure.
this day, have never ever taken a non-miniature related painting class. And I wish anytime I see like a color theory class, like that's what I want to know more about, the mixing the
Sure.
paints. Because
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
very spoiled. I have a million different paints in a bunch of different bottles, but I would really, really love to know how to mix basic acrylic paint better.
Have you purchased your Chimera paint set yet?
Oh, it's at my light is actually sitting on, sitting on it right now. Oh, shout out to Krell. But yeah, I haven't played with them yet, but I'm really excited because the Chimera colors I've heard great things about.
It is so I never had any art stuff. It was always music for me. My brother was the artist. And so like none of that was ever nurtured. I'm like reclaiming my youth right now by
Oh,
painting.
nice. Good for you.
And,
Never too late. Never too
right,
late.
exactly. And now like I'm doing the exact same thing. I wish I had paid more attention to like art classes when I had them, because like I feel like I'm flying blind a lot of the time, and there's people who are like when I hear Eenieminis talk about painting and some of the things that she says like makes so much sense just by like how light reflects off of things, and I'm going to use blue here in the shadows instead of adding black, where like I'm like it's going to be darker, so I'm adding black, we're doing black.
This makes sense, right? In the shadow.
Right. She uses all this like cool color modulation stuff that I'm like still playing with and still learning, and I'm like I'm just gonna have to sit down with my Chimera set and actually do it. So that's my next challenge, is to only mix paints from the Chimera set and like learn how to do it, just to give myself that thing. Otherwise I'll just
Otherwise,
like
we'll just sit on a shelf like
yeah,
mine. That's a base for my light stand right now. Yeah.
beautiful though. I mean, like it is a great ornament. The box, I couldn't get rid of it.
It's beautiful, right? Yeah. Oh, but yeah. I wonder. I think one of the things that I learned as I was taking different painting classes was how to add color into shadows. I think that is one of the things that just like blew my mind. I got, what is it, the James Gurney book, Color and Light, and that was a huge eye opener for me. I
Book.
think,
Yeah.
I think a couple of other people have talked about that, but that knowing kind of the breakdown of how light interacts with things. And I think Enie's been working with oils lately, which is something that I've never played with, which is super cool. But yeah, just being able to work with different colors, because I would do the same thing when I first started out. It's like add black to make red darker. Then you have this muddy, gross color, and you're like, why do the pictures on the internet look so much better than mine? Like, obviously I'm not to that level, but this really sucks,
Right. Well, and like, man, early on when you think that you've figured out something and you are trying to execute it, and your end result, you're like, there is something happening here. I don't know what it is. Like color theory is so like relied upon too much, but also like not stressed enough. Like I think you should have a good understanding specifically on light and shadow. Like being a picture framer, that's what I do all day. It's not that I'm looking at like white. I'm looking at the way the light reflects off of the white. I'm looking the way the frame like you are making a beautiful composition, and it's not the actual colors, it's how the colors interact with each other and how the light reflects off of it. And so like that's my one, like I have this one thing that put me ahead of the curve. And I've watched so many people like the other day I was watching this new painter, and I was so proud of him for just trying something like totally ballsy. He just like pulled like 4 different paints, mixed them up. He's like, the cloak is going to be this color. And I'm like, whoa,
Okay.
all right. And he did it. He's like, I don't know if this is good. I was like, yeah, like, of course it's not good. You just grabbed 4 random paints and you put it on there. Like, you didn't even think about it. You didn't even like highlight it.
Bet, man. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's lost the bet. It was so cool watching that, and watching him like try to figure out. He's like, I don't know if I like this yet. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I was like, God, I wish I could be there and be like, dude, this is why this doesn't work. But this is why you have done something cool, because you've taken it in a direction that nobody else is going in. Like, let's figure the color theory out from that direction. So like it takes the person, the naivete to try something new, but also it takes like a learned brain to execute that, because otherwise you are just going to be like kind of making a weird, like putrid little mess on your model.
If you mix like all the colors together, you always just get brown. Like if you ever put anything in a crock pot, you could have the most beautiful colors and you put it in a crock pot. At the end of the day, it's brown,
It tastes great though, like
Yeah.
I always
Right?
joke that like it doesn't matter what you put in the crock pot, is like by the end of the day it's always something good. It's the effort that goes into it,
I
Just
love
try
this
it. You'll get
crock pot.
there.
Yeah, right. And I wish that I guess when I was trying to understand color a little bit better and in mixing paints, one of the things that I had to focus on, I think, was not using too many. And my husband, he would paint models for our game nights and when we play D&D, and he would get so excited because I had all these different colors that I started collecting, and he wanted to use all of them. And we've got a really great, he played a rogue, and his nickname is Skittletor because he is literally every color of the rainbow on a rogue,
Nice.
with like stealthy rogue with a dagger, and he's just like, he looks like a bag of Skittles. So yeah, Skittletor is his name. And I remember he was so disappointed. He was like, I don't understand. I used so many colors. Why does it look bad? It's like, where do I start? It's because you used so many colors, So
First off,
when I thought,
you did an excellent job.
Right.
But...
It's a compliment sandwich. I love what you did with this rogue. Is going to be so great to play. He's got so much personality. I think if maybe he were a couple of less colors, maybe some more darker blues or purples or browns, I think that would go more with the character that you've built. And then at the very end, I don't know, say something. And you know what? It's even better than the last mini that you painted.
Right.
Technically. But yeah,
that's so funny.
He'd see right through that. He's like, I know it sucks. You don't have to be nice about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, anytime I tried painting before minis, like, I would like trying to come up with logos for bands, because I still am of that era where like you need a logo. Like if you don't have a logo, like then what are you? Like, so like my last band, I'm like trying to do this logo, and like I basically painted this like eyeball with like a peace sign and its in its pupil, and it has like a chaos star coming out of it. I'm like, yeah, this is edgy, like see peace through chaos, cool. And my wife looks at it and she's like, well, you really do have a primitive art style. This is great. And I was just like, that is like a really, really like great way of telling me that I suck at it. But thank you. And then like we gave it to a friend who actually was an artist and turned it into something, like actually like good. I was like, oh, okay, good. That's how you do it. Like that's what a straight
you were
line
the
is.
concept artist.
Right.
Yeah. they just refined it. But I'm sure it'll look great on band posters.
I made a bunch of mono prints out of it, like because I have all this scrap acrylic from work, and if you take a Dremel to it and you like paint like fabric paint onto it and like peel it off, it leaves like these great like fractal like mono prints, and so each one's different, and I made a bunch of patches that way. Looked really cool.
Nice.
I think anyway.
Just don't show your wife.
Right. So, when did you realize that, you're now playing D&D with your husband, you are having fun with it, but you are having way more fun with the minis? When did you realize that you actually had the skill to go for competition painting? Because that is like a whole nother skill. Anybody can push paint on a model, but actually knowing that you have that thing that is different than everybody else's, how did that translate to you going, okay, well, this is it, we're doing a competition?
Sure. I was peer pressured into one. We'll say that. But yeah, so the first time I went to a convention, it was ReaperCon, and I would go. I loved it. I took so many classes. They won't even allow you to take that many classes nowadays because most people would just burn out. Smoke would come out of their ears. But I loved it. Like 10 hours a day, I'm there. I'm taking notes. I'm painting minis, and I just absorbed so much. So
who was your favorite out of that group of lessons?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question, but also an easy answer. I think everybody is absolutely amazing. Has their own specialization, and even people that teach the same class have a completely different way of teaching it, which is really cool.
Sure.
But I think Derek Schubert is the guy that really just, when I saw his work, I was like, I want to paint like that. That's what I want.
Nice.
And he's a brilliant dude, and he's super low key. He's extremely intelligent. I don't know. I think he's probably working on some engineering master computer something in Silicon Valley. But yeah, he's great, and he's not really like out in the public eye much. But when you take a class from him, it just, the way that he explains things makes sense to me, and I think that is when it started clicking and trying to make my work as clean as possible. And that I think once I took the class from him about painting eyes and how he works, and I took a one-on-one class with him, it just opened up a lot more creative perspective when it comes to miniature painting.
Nice.
But it really, I think when I went to that convention and I realized everything that I didn't know, and that
right.
that was humbling. Like, I didn't go into it being like, I'm amazing. It was just like, I love minis. I'm so happy to be here. Woo!
Yeah.
And then I took a bunch of classes and was like, I know nothing. Woo! I'm learning so much, because I started literally like just ground zero here.
Right.
I took a couple of art classes in the past, but nothing that would prepare me for the scale. And I was using kind of some of the wrong equipment. My brushes weren't really, what I needed. So learning all that, and then having somebody say, you should put something in a competition. Yeah, no, yeah, okay, maybe in 10 years. But I showed up, and I still have her. I showed up with this one mini, and I didn't know anything about basing. The research I'd done online was just about how to paint a specific mini, and it was kind of outside of the Warhammer knowledge base. And I was like, oh, airbrushing, that's too much. So I just would focus on tiny technical things, and I still had her in the slot base. So
nice.
You've got one of these, and there's the little slot, and she still was on the piece of pewter, and I just stuck her in the slot base, and that was it. And she was leaning to the side like a what were those the commercials with the vegetable juice, and they're walking to the side.
Oh,
and
the
then,
V8
they have
ones. Yeah.
The V8, and then they have the V8, and then they're ready to tackle the day and be an amazing person. That.
Yeah.
I actually entered her, and I didn't want to, because she's just stuck in a slot base.
Right. You're like, wait, no.
This is, I am so over my head.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly who convinced me to put that into the competition that year, but I did, and I won an honorable mention, and I was like,
wow,
what?
Wow.
So that's when I started thinking, oh, I might be okay at this if I keep learning and keep practicing. I was blown away that I won any type of anything. I thought I didn't think I was gonna get a participation award. You showed up.
Right, right.
Here's your ribbon.
So was that the first convention you'd went to? Like wow, that's pretty awesome because it shows that you were already heading in the right direction, even though you may not have understood exactly what that direction was. That's really fantastic.
Thanks.
So
Yeah, it was
what happened next
something.
year? What happened next year? Did you like totally clean house? Like come back like big guns out? Like I learned basin. I've got all of this. We're like loaded brush. I'm doing it all.
I came back the next year and won a gold, and I still think like the joke is, I go by Mocha online, but my real name is Michael, and it's so hard to try to explain that to people, and so I just go by my online handle that I had when I played World of Warcraft. Plus, it was all coffee related. But
Right.
Michael Proctor is one of the instructors there, and he also kind of runs the judging for the open paint contest that they have. And so my joke is always, I think that they confused me with Michael Proctor, and I accidentally won his award. I need to go apologize and give it back. But yeah, it's crazy to think that only. I took a slew of classes the first year. I wouldn't necessarily recommend taking that many if you're a brand newbie, but I probably took 12 classes.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot.
I took classes like, start to finish every single day. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to socialize, unfortunately, but yeah, I was just in there to learn. And I went home and I practiced, and I tried painting all sorts of different types of minis, and I found out what minis I like to paint a little bit more, and whether I liked monsters or whether I liked kind of the steampunk, or whether I liked tanks or fantasy or painting ladies. And yeah, I came back the next year, and whatever I did worked, because I really I think those results are not typical for most people that enter for the first time, get an honorable mention, and come back and win gold. That's weird. So I don't want, I still can't believe it happened. But yeah, it's possible. And that's the coolest thing.
That's really cool. It's inspiring because I've only been painting for like 2 years now. I during quarantine had my 2-year anniversary. I was like, oh, it seemed like I'd been doing this longer. And competition painting for me was like one of those things that I just looked at everybody around at the game stores and was like, I don't know why mine are different than theirs, because I don't feel like I know more than any of these guys that's been painting for 20 years, but mine look better, and I don't know what it is. And so I was like, I'm gonna go, and I want to see what it's like in an actual competition. And there's something about pushing yourself to that level, especially that early, just trying it, while I don't want to paint for a competition all the time, it made me look at my work very differently, for better or for worse. Sometimes it was heartbreaking. It's you're like, oh man,
there are always lows.
Yeah. This is what I really suck at. Non-metallic metal is still the bane of my existence, and it's only metal. I do non-metallic stuff on literally everything else. Literally everything else is the same technique. It's the same thing. I should be able to paint gold. Nah, I suck at it. It is my kryptonite. Yeah, silver, not so bad, but
really?
Gold, yeah, gold. Yeah, and it's just because I always go too yellow and it looks silly. You're like, oh yeah, this is like Disney gold. It's something.
Beauty and the Beast gold.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the candlestick. It's that sort of gold. Oh, it's not right.
Yeah, for me, gold was so hard because I would actually have the opposite problem where I'd add, a dark brown, and it would just look muddy.
Sure.
And I was like, why does this look just so? It doesn't look like gold. It just looks like dirty. It's dirty metal. But I didn't want dirty metal. That was what I was going for. But yeah, it just looked kind of dark and flat. But yeah, being able to go up to those lighter highlights without making it too sunshine yellow.
Right.
I think that was hard for me too.
And that's where I always hit. I'm just and that's just yellow. I've been working on this for 4 hours. It's just yellow.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think non-metallic metal was tough for me. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, well, so how long have you been on Twitch now? Because like winning competitions and stuff, I'm sure like it looked like on your website, like you just kept that up. You never stopped once you started. Like, what was the inspiration to do this live on Twitch? Because it's totally nerve-wracking, and it seems like you've been doing it for quite a while.
Well, thanks. It's I want to say it's been over a year and a half just. So I started back in November of 2018. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a while.
Kind of, yeah, it was something that I was really losing steam painting, and I was super busy with everything before the big move, and I didn't have time to paint anymore. Like the 2 years before, it just maybe I'd paint maybe once a month, and I didn't have any passion for it. And we went through some big life changes, and the sad part of the story is we had to say goodbye to our dog of 10 years. He was my buddy, and it was so hard on me, and I was having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, and I couldn't. I needed something to be passionate about, but I also needed the social accountability. And so that's when I started streaming on Twitch, because I needed to share that excitement, more than just 1 or 2 times a year when I could make it to a convention.
Right.
And that really, I've painted more in the last year and a half than I probably in the last 5 to 6 years.
Really?
Which
Wow.
is awesome. I can't say that I've finished more minis, but I can say that that social accountability and that interaction and talking to people and getting ideas on Twitch is such an incredible thing, and I really haven't experienced anything like that before.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that Twitch gave that to you, because like I am a social painter, and I instantly started trying to like help my friends, because they're like, how did you do this? It's like, just come over on Sunday and like I'll help you. Like
paint club. Yes.
Yeah, paint club. We'll figure this out. And we did that for a while until about like last Christmas, and I just got busy with work, and I started working on my resin beast thing, and I was just like, I love you guys, but you fuck up my flow. Like, leave me alone. And so like
hand holding. Yeah.
Exactly, like a figure it out, kids. Like we're doing this again, and I wasn't that hardcore, but like it felt like it on the inside. Like I was like, please guys, like just understand that I do like you all. But like I realized that I missed the community of like having people around, having people to listen to music with while painting. Like it just feels weird not having that. And so when I started Twitch, I started doing YouTube first, and I hate it. I hate editing videos. It's the worst. Like out of anything that you can do in this world, there's nothing more boring than editing a hobby video, because you're like, just like you're watching paint dry for the second time, and it's the worst. It literally the worst.
And that piece of metal is still yellow. Yeah.
Yellow. Yeah. You still get to see all the things that you mess up. You're trying to give somebody information that maybe they don't already have, but like, let's be honest, there's a million good YouTube tutorials now. Like I literally don't need to add my voice to it. Like I have nothing new to add here. And that's why these things work, because like this is new, this is different. But Twitch, I found like instantly there was some people from the YouTube group in Australia that I was like streaming really late, because I didn't want people on my stream because I was nervous about it. And they were like, hey Heath, how you doing? And I'm like, oh my God, there's people watching me. This is so weird. And like, but the community seems to be like the reason that Twitch exists, and something that, for better or for worse, is something that is unique to Twitch. Like I have not experienced this anywhere else, where somebody from England can be telling you about their day while you're doing something, while then somebody else from California is asking you this thing. It just like, there's something about that that's super inspiring. And like I now, like, I wish I had more time for Twitch. Like quarantine was great, real life has gotten in the way, but like I love being able to do things on Twitch now. Like it just, those moments are like amazing. It's like a drug. Instantly, you're just like, oh, I was bummed out before, and now I am pumped. This is incredible.
Yes. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I started kind of a crappy day and then, was like, I can't be entertaining. This is going to suck. Nobody's going to watch this. If they do, in fact, I'd rather them not. And then I have a cup of coffee and I'm like, let's do this. And in chat's there.
Or you're just like, oh, I guess I'm gonna do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the whole Eeyore thing. And there is nothing like Twitch, that immediate in the moment live interaction. And at first I didn't get Twitch. I play a lot of video games. I watch a lot of Let's Plays on YouTube. But I was like, it's live. They're not talking about anything. This is boring. I'm just into this video game, so I'll watch it. But I never thought, ooh, that's something I want to do. And then I started tuning into people and streamers that had a really great community. And I was like, I get it now. I get it. It's not just a bunch of trolls trying to tell you what to do while, you're running down the street in, whatever game you're playing. But yeah, having people encouraging, but also asking questions and having that, that connection with people that are also passionate about what you're passionate about. And let's be real, if you threw a rock, you probably wouldn't hit somebody that even knew what miniature painting was.
Right.
But also don't throw rocks at people because that's rude. But yeah, I love to laugh. And I mean, as you can tell, it's something that I have to hold back when I'm like having a good conversation or I've had some good coffee, is I have a tendency to laugh and giggle a little bit too much. So I have to pull it back sometimes when I'm not thinking about it. But that joy that you get when you're on Twitch and you have people there and they're excited about what you're painting,
yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like it.
It's so cool. And every time I've hopped in your stream, whether, like I said, you're doing super technical stuff or you're just kind of like warming up, you have this like light about you, and you're just like somehow like totally focused to like take in all the information, because like sometimes your chat is just zooming by. Yeah, and I'm just like, whoa, there are a lot of comments happening here, and and you somehow manage to, I mean, you can't get them all, but you do a well enough job with it, and you navigate. Chat can be really bizarre, especially if you've missed a couple things and you come in like halfway through somebody's conversation with somebody else. You're like, am I supposed to be privy to this conversation right now? There's something happening here. I wish I knew what it was. Like,
right.
It seems like in a chat like yours, it would be very easy for that to just like totally run away from you. Right.
Yeah. I think that's one of my biggest fears is like something's going to happen, like where chat's popping and I'm excited and like, a raid's incoming. We know some of these people and let's say that two other people know each other in the chat and they're like for those that might not be as familiar with Twitch is when you kind of at someone and it highlights their name. And right. So two people in chat can have a conversation, but also the streamer's like, oh, cool, they're specifically talking to that person. I don't need to monitor that. They're just having a conversation about which red is better, or do they like blood for the blood god, or do they like to me a clear red, like that's perfectly fine. But you always worry, like, what if somebody comes in and is like, doing something that's not okay with you, that's against kind of the ethos you have for like the style that you have in your community, and I keep I try to keep my stream fairly clean. It's just, I don't know, it's just a personal choice, and no offense to people that have mature streams, of course. I do like to drop the occasional swear word, especially when I'm painting by myself, but yeah, it's one of those things where we're really lucky. I have so much respect and gratitude for the folks in our community. We can call them Mocha Marines. And the community kind of helps police itself, which is everything that I wanted in Twitch. Because when you think about just the general, you're a woman on the internet, just putting yourself out there. And you've got to be really careful because anybody like literally anybody could pop in and start making trouble. And that's why, you know, we really rely on our mods, but also as a streamer, you know, you want to make sure that everybody knows these are the expectations for our community. You're always welcome here, but if it's not something that, you know, appeals to you, then, you know, there are plenty of other streams out there that might be more your style.
Right. I've only seen a couple things like one time I was watching Shoshi and somebody said something stupid, just like a real dumb guy joke about his wife. It was like one of those ones where you're just like, oh yeah, my dad would have thought that was totally hilarious, and she like ate his lunch. I was like, I was so proud of her. I was just like, I was like, oh, like no context is even in the text because it's just like a random person that she probably recognized names. You know, that's like the fun thing. You start to make friends on there and actual real relationships on Twitch, but you also get to know who the like kind of trouble people are as well. And she just was like, Kevin, like, like just like straight up, she's like, nah, not today, man. That's not gonna work. Whatever. And I was just like, it's like, wow, like this is interesting because it's right, it's live and it's happening, and there's that like edge of chaos that like I didn't think I would like, but I really like it. Like there's like, it almost feels like we're all doing something a little dangerous, you know?
Hashtag nerd kink. Nerd kink, right. It's one of those things where it's like, this could go off the rails at any point.
At any time,
like, which is like the danger factor, but the excitement factor, but it's that unknown and that, I don't know, just in the moment kind of edginess. But yeah, the edge of chaos again, right? That's going to be another band name that we're going to need to you know, put on the list.
that is a new metal band if I've ever heard anything.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
7-string guitar, we got it.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for the streamers that do nip that in the bud. Like if there's and I've seen it happen in different streams, especially when I was watching, you know, female streamers that were, you know, had some guys that would try to stir the pot a little bit in an inappropriate way, which I guess is the nicest way I could say that. But they would let it go, and then it would escalate. And other people in the chat would think, oh, this behavior is allowed. And all of a sudden, it would just start to compound. So I have so much respect for the streamers that are just like, hey, that, not here. Just gonna, I'm just give you a warning. Nope. And that, it stops it before it starts getting out of hand. So I absolutely think that's just personal opinion, the right route to go.
Right. So. Well, and it's almost like we're bartenders without like the volatile drink involved on like in like the transactional nature of the relationship. Like we by not saying something, we are encouraging that behavior, and bartenders, like they have to be like quick and like shut that down, because if you don't, if you let in, like I was reading this meme that was like, if a bartender accidentally lets in a guy with like Nazi like stuff on his like jean jacket, like, and he's like, well, he's not causing trouble. The next day he's going to be back with one of his friends, and they may not cause trouble either, but then pretty soon you have a Nazi bar and you did not set out to do that. So you have to shut these things down. And I was like, God damn, like that is one of the most direct things. And like, I totally get it. Like you have to be on top of that. Otherwise, it has that it can totally run away, and mods will not be able to stop all of it. You know, eventually it will just be too much. So I have a lot of
that pressure on your mods either to, you know, have to completely police it without your help as a streamer.
The mod community is something that I'm starting to pay more attention to them, because you know, like Eenie's mods have had to put up with a lot of shit recently. You know, ever since she has came out and talked about her sexual assault at Adepticon, like people, while maybe not always targeting her, like they have come out of the woodworks. And while it's calmed down now, thank God, like I would hate for every single day for her to have to relive that bullshit. You know, like her and her mods are on it, because you know, like when you have that kind of like growth happening there, like guys don't like watching women like succeed. I don't know why. I hate it. I hate the fact that I've seen it in my friends where you're just like, dude, you are being a real dick right now. Like, what is your problem? And it seems like Twitch, everybody is like so close to that edge of like, oh, the trolls noticed me, they're coming in here. Like, it's very interesting environment. And I feel really fortunate that I haven't seen anything horrible go down, and even the worst part of it is still pretty tame. It's just I always wonder what is going to be the thing that like totally like upsets my day. Like what is it going to be? Where is it going to come from? Because you just don't know. You have no idea who's watching. That's like the weird thing when you get like 20, 30 people just watching you. Like, you don't know who they are. They aren't talking in chat. Like, they're just watching you. And you're like, okay, all right, just at least say hi, please. Like something.
We love the fact that you're lurking. Just want to make sure that you're all healthy lurkers out there. Like,
Right.
You can't really call them out, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's like being a guy, like, I don't have to worry about the same shit. But, like, I also, like, want to make sure that I am being, like, interactive in a way that isn't threatening to people, or I don't want to accidentally be turning people off with my language, even though like I can't help it, especially if I'm painting. It's gonna be blue.
Especially if I'm painting. Yeah, that's the key.
It's gonna be blue. Like I can't help it.
Yeah. And that's the interesting part is, there's like a lot to unpack there, right? You never want to assume that somebody's coming in to disrupt your stream. Right. But also being anyone on the internet, but especially a woman on the internet that might have, and again, this is just in general, I'm not talking about anything specific, but when you're vulnerable and you put something that's a personal, experience for you, the internet, everybody has an opinion and everybody wants to comment on it. And, the thing that is both incredible but also terrifying to me is you can share something that is so personal to you and have people that may feel in a way comforted that someone else has maybe had a terrible experience that they also shared, but knowing that they're not alone, right? So that's like there's so many ways it can go when anybody is vulnerable on the internet. And right now I feel like the climate, and I'll have to be very careful and diplomatic the way that I say this, but the climate is that everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame to get their opinion in there, cause a mess, and people are putting really how do I say, the labels and the words that people throw around are very triggering for a lot of folks. And somebody can use the wrong phrase and it just blows up, right?
Yeah.
Or, somebody can, might be a little bit more opinionated or less sensitive about someone's situation. And they come out and they're like, you're not supposed to be saying this on the internet. And you need to, here's how you should think and feel. And then everything just goes to hell. And that's something that, and we've seen it for, just in with any type of celebrity, right? When you put yourself out there and let's say a celebrity messes up and, does something really dumb and Kate Beckinsale divorces him for it because come on. For example, like, but they say, well, you're a celebrity and you're making a bunch of money and you can't get to complain about this. And if you want to be a celebrity, then you need to make sure that anything you do is, above the board and you're not allowed to make any mistakes. And if they do make a mistake, because they are still human beings, even though some people, not that what Hugh Grant did was right by any means, for example. But man, the internet will tear people. I just showed how old I was, right?
You just deep dived, like we're talking Notting Hill era Hugh Grant. Like, there's not many people like all them youngins. They didn't get that.
They're
one.
Like, who? Yeah, right. That's okay. That's okay. We'll leave it at that. But yeah. I was a big Kate Beckinsale fan, and oh my gosh, what Underworld was like that. I thought that was the coolest series in the I was like, this
So
is amazing.
stylized, so kick
Yeah,
ass, and
I
the voice.
urban fantasy is my jam.
Yeah, well, and like after Blade kind of like disappeared, it there isn't really anything doing it, and it drives me crazy. Like that stuff is so fun.
Yeah. And so, like whenever you see like a celebrity do something bad on the internet, or sorry, bad in life, the
Right.
internet is such a powerful and amazing thing. But then you have people that just think that they have a right to try and tear apart someone's life
Right.
because of, their opinion. And that's terrifying because I think of myself in a situation where, let's say I say the wrong phrase, or I say something that I don't mean, but it comes across completely wrong. Like if
Yeah.
someone says, this is what I heard, and that's like, oh my gosh, that is not what I said at all. I'm sorry. Also, what? Why would
Yeah.
you think that I would be a person that would say that? But again, a lot of people, I mean, they don't know you. They tune
No.
into your stream and they literally judge you in a snap second. And that is the scary part of Twitch, when you think I could do something that could hurt someone else, or by accident. Obviously, I never want to, I only want to be a positive
Right.
element in any of this. But to know that you're one dumb thing away from having people come after you personally,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Man, I'm just glad that Twitch wasn't around when I was in my early 20s. I was an asshole. I didn't want to be an asshole, but like I had a thyroid disorder that like made me like crazy, and so like I was aggressive and I didn't need to be, and I was like highly defensive. I thought everybody was out to get me. Like I would have been a troll. Like I know it because I did it. I like if somebody crossed me, like I would find the worst way to hurt them because I was like, these guys hurt me. They're out to get me. I'm going to get them back. And I would come up with really awful things. And so like, I'm on my apology tour of the rest of my life for me being a shithead kid. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I want people to feel comfortable, and I want people, and like sometimes you have to have really hard conversations. You have to talk to your audience in a way that you don't get to talk to strangers about things, and that's a really interesting place because it puts you in this weird situation of power that you really hope that you're on the right side of the argument. You really hope that you speak clearly. It's like when I saw Brent do his video on racism in the hobby. Like I was shocked that he managed to do a 45-minute or 54-minute long video and didn't put his foot in his mouth once. He didn't get hot. He didn't like the script was right all the way through, where I would probably have gotten pissed halfway through it and like been mad the rest of the thing. It would have escalated. And so it's so interesting to see that be an aspect of everyday life on Twitch. Like, hey, we're trying to be really good here. We're trying to be inviting to everybody, and we want you all to be here. And we hope that by you being here, we can give you a bit of understanding of someone in a different place, in a different life, and maybe like break that empathy bucket open and maybe get them to see that they are not as alone as maybe they felt. I don't want all the trolls to run away. I want them to understand that like we're humans and they need to see everybody as humans, like equals. And that like that's a conversation that's hard, and I don't know how like Twitch is a place where I think like the next step is actually going to happen, especially since the friendly local game stores are closed. Like
Right.
we are not seeing each other face to face. So it's like up to like us on Twitch to be the shining light, to be good, to be positive, and also to be clear and concise and sharp when we need to. It feels like a lot of responsibility, like just a little bit. You're like, huh, like I didn't know that was going to be a place that I'm at, but here we are. And it's interesting to see a format that was built for watching people, shoot noobs and, you know, like hang out with friends, like become this like artistic, creative conversation piece that I never expected it to mean this much.
Right. Oh, yeah. And the interesting part about Twitch is that's where those immediate conversations are taking place.
Yeah.
And with everything going on, and you know, I know that recently, you know, the whole time I've been on Twitch, I try to avoid controversial topics of, you know,
Sure.
race, religion, politics, just as a general guideline to try to prevent
Right.
one
It's Tuesday.
myself from
I don't want to
screwing
be
it up.
pissed off. Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like this is my escape where I can paint and I don't have to think about that stuff that happens in everyday life. I invite you to join me. Let's laugh together. Let's have that positivity. But now, you know, with I had someone kind of talk about, you know, I'm a social media influencer, and I feel obligated to speak out and have my opinion heard. But it's not, you know, where how can I help this without making it look like I'm just jumping on a fad for attention seeking? And I was like, whoa. And I had another person reach out and you know, ask me my opinion as a person of color in the hobby industry, and I was like, what? They said POC, and of course, like I felt so dumb because it was like
not knowing the POC. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm a POS. How dare you?
What's going on here? Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed because, you know, I asked my husband, I was like, what's POC? And he's like, person of color. I was like, I'm a POC. Like, again, that sounds so ridiculous because, like, you know, we all talk about identity and you know, the conversations that are happening are absolutely important, and I'm glad that we're having them, and attention is being focused, you know, on things that have been a problem for a long time and need to be worked out, and people need to listen and also speak up, but also keep it focused on how to make things better, not just flailing about. Because I think of like Kermit the Frog, like, blah, here are my opinions. It's like, what are you really trying to do? And so, you know, but for the first time I thought, I've never thought about myself. I mean, okay, so, you know, full transparency, my dad is blonde hair, blue eyes, and my mom is Filipino. And, you know, she was born here in the States, and,
Right.
you know, I have my mom's coloring, but like my dad's bone structure. So people are like, you're ethnically ambiguous. You could be anything. You know, in the summer, I look like Mowgli from the Jungle Book, but in the winter, I look like, I don't know, a Filipino vampire. It's terrifying. But yeah, to think that someone wanted to reach out for my opinion as a person of color in the hobby community, I felt this tremendous pressure. Like, one,
Sure.
I was flattered that they, you know, would want to talk to me about, you know, their opinions and what they kind of were going through. The second one was like, oh crap, am I holding up my end of the bargain here? Like, I felt pressured to, like, I don't know, say or do something, anything, you know, what's my role in all this? And that's been something that I've been struggling with the last, you know, month. I've had some family stuff going on, you know, of course, with quarantine, it's just been such a drain on my mental health.
Absolutely.
And, you know, for people that are trying to kind of, you know, make money in the commission business and having everything drop off, and, you know, like just things are just drying up in ways that is very scary.
Sure.
And, you know, worrying about your folks, are they staying safe, and like what's going to happen in the future, and all this just anxiety, the cloud that just kind of ripples around you all the time.
Right.
And to only be able to escape into the hobby and just focus on that. But now I'm like, where does the love and passion for this hobby / profession and my role as a persona and a voice on Twitch, where does that all meet?
Sure.
I don't have an answer for it, but that's what I've been thinking about at
That's
night.
It's really awesome that, like, first off, the fact that you didn't realize that you're a POC and you had to ask your husband what that was is one of the most endearing things I have ever heard. Like, it makes me
I was
like
just
you even
embarrassed.
more. But I mean, like, like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I had this moment when I first researched you. I was like, it's like, holy shit. I was like, I don't think Mocha knows it, but she's a goddamn unicorn. Like I've never seen anything like this, and I don't think she even realizes how special she is right now. Like, and I like was talking with my wife about it, and my wife is like so pumped that I'm interviewing women in the hobby because she is an artist, and she is always been like big into supporting women in the arts because where she grew up in Arkansas, that they just didn't. The guys got all the credit and that was it. So she's made kind of her life's goal, like boosting the voice of women, and so she thinks that it's super cool that I'm doing this, and I'm like it's fascinating to me because I like hearing people who have different lives than me. And then when I saw you, I was like, this woman is painting like she has zero cares in the world, zero shits given. This is a magic place. Everything is happy here. And it's so cool. It is absolutely so cool being able to see it happen like that. And like gives me a whole different like respect that like you can take that stance of just like I'm learning it too, where this is probably an ongoing conversation for all of us, and that's really, I mean, like I think that's super special, like because I think that well, wherever you're going from here, you're going to be, I mean, I think that probably more people will ask you. I doubt that is going to be the only time that you're asked these things, and hopefully, you'll be able to feel more comfortable with a conversation like that the next time it pops up. Because, like, yeah, I unfortunately I don't see the conversation of race in the hobby going away. I think Warhammer managed to, Games Workshop, for better or for worse, like they stirred this pot, and I think somebody needed to say something like that as hard as they did, even though like it's harsh, and it's said in a way that's super antagonistic, and anybody who's been playing Warhammer for forever, they'd be like, oh, well, I'm racist. I'm not going to play this anymore because they didn't tell me. Like, no, they're entrenched. They've spent their $10,000 on all their models. They're going nowhere. Like, this is a conversation that we're going to have over and over again. And it's interesting to, prep yourself for that. Like,
oh yeah,
race is going to be a topic, and as it should be, and hopefully you find yourself not like becoming some sort of like token conversation piece, and you can be like very clear and concise with your message, and understand those things so you don't feel taken advantage of, because that would really suck. That's not what I want for you, but and really I don't want anything stressful for you. I kind of want to figure out a way to keep that from you, because like
my
I said,
bubble, the Mocha bubble, this
Mocha
just like, what's the POC? Oh, God. So yeah, that's again, I can have some really dumb moments. I swear, like I consider myself an intelligent individual most days, but yeah, I want, I want what I do and kind of what I put out there to be a wonderful, safe space. And I absolutely would welcome anyone who kind of wants to have that conversation with me. I'd be happy to talk to them, online about it, in personal messages, as long as it's kept, in a constructive way, and it's not like, just antagonistic, because I've been following along with a lot of this, and, I do have opinions, but I also know that, when I go live on Twitch, I tell myself, like, this is a safe space. And yeah. I'll do that when I teach classes. So I teach a class at ReaperCon, have for the last couple of years, called Painting Multicultural Skin Tones, because it's nice. One of the classes I've never seen, I mean, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. And
The
like,
first mini I painted looked like me because that's what you do, right? You know?
it's awesome.
But yeah, knowing that people, I started experimenting with different skin tones, and people are like, "Why don't you teach a class on that?" And I thought, would that be comfortable for people? I mean, there are plenty of tutorials out online, and they're like, "Yeah, but it's not taught by you."
Right, right.
And I had to kind of, oh, right, POC, got it. Yeah.
And every morning you get to look at yourself in the mirror. You get to see what happens when you do your like daily ritual. You understand skin tone very differently. Like when I see my skin tone, it's really hard to like, because you can't go white enough with me most of the time, like it's either like white or like baby pink, and it's very weird, and like I don't quite understand it. And so like when I first started painting minis, I was like doing all the Kingdom Death stuff. It's like, why are all these just so white? Like they're all so white. So I did like one of them in a Latina skin tone. I did Zachary in an African American skin tone, and like I was having fun with it. I was like, these are way more fun to paint than like this. This is not fun to paint because it's like like how do you contour, this is weird.
Like, I already am the highlight. Where do I go from here?
Right, right. How do I do a shadow on this? This is bizarre. So
Thank you. But yeah, knowing that, again, like there's so much conversation about this, and like knowing that, and it's embarrassing because I don't feel like I ought to, we're gonna get deep here. I somehow don't feel like I ought to have an opinion because, yes, I teach those classes. I say it's a safe space. I tell everybody what my ethnicity is, and if anybody has any questions, let me know. Sure. Again, as long as we keep it, positive, and we're, talking about painting and different, skin tones, because you can have someone of the same race, but so many different types of skin tones and undertones. It's beautiful, and we talk about that in the class. And it's also nice because the majority of people in my class are Caucasian, and so many of them are like, I feel scared doing skin tones because I don't want to like mess it up, because yes, it is harder to paint a darker skin tone because you have a different range of values, right?
Sure.
So and we'll do, Caucasian skin tone, Asian skin tone. I mean, we'll try to do as many as we can in the 2 hours that we have. And when we get done, the mini looks crazy because like each limb is like a different, like it's like they Frankenstein. It's very strange. And I'm sure if they're like, this is what I learned in class, people would be like, whoa, never take a class from that instructor ever again. But yeah, the idea is we get to talk about that. And, yes, the conversations that we're having are incredibly important. And, I've spent years growing up where, somebody is like, what are you? And I'm like, an American? They're like, no, what are you? Where are you from?
Right,
Texas.
Right.
Where are you from? I was like, I was born in freaking Texas. What do you want from me? Oh, you're asking what my ethnicity is. You need to find a better way to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think that right there just means that you actually do have an opinion and you have a voice, and you just never actually given yourself that sort of time. Because if you've been asked that question, you have something that I've never had, like at all. Like I have always just been taken at face value that I'm a white guy and that I do pretty good things, I guess. Like that's just been kind of like easy street, even though like I wouldn't call my life particularly easy. But when I hear some of the stories of my friends here in St. Louis, I had a very different childhood than they did. Symphony orchestras is not something that inner city kids get to go through that often here. So it's like it's a very different conversation. And even though like I lived in camp trailers for 4 years of my life because my family was building a house, like that is a different conversation than people who don't have things like that. It's hard and it's complicated. Mocha, we've we've gone like way long, and I apologize about
that's okay.
that.
Okay.
Okay,
we were having like we were like, oh, music and art.
Yeah,
and
fun.
like,
Yeah.
Let's talk about race. Like,
Yeah, let's get there.
boy. But yeah, I mean, again, thank you for being willing. I know that we only kind of, talked about, the basic stuff, but I hope that I still kept it, positive. And again, just want to make sure that like I put that out there, that I'm willing to have those conversations, but I want to always, make it about, my opinion, and I don't speak for anybody else.
Sure.
I grew up not white enough for the white kids and not dark enough for the dark kids, and I just hung out with the halfies, and that's where I spent my life. Like, I could tell you stories, right? Like, I go out to dinner with my dad, and people are like,
what?
Like, who's this young girl with this old man? I'm like, this is my biological father, okay? Don't give me that look, but yeah, you think that like he was stealing. People have asked me my entire life, are you adopted? No. Like, look at, do you think this bridge on my nose, comes from my mom? Have you met my mom? But yeah. But all that joking aside, I do appreciate that, you're willing to talk about that and have those conversations and just be open to everything that we've talked about tonight. I just wanted to thank you for that.
I really appreciate it, and we'll do this again. We'll talk more, and we'll get more. Like, I don't always want this show to be like a super heavy thing, and I'm glad that you aren't that. Like, I think that is really exciting, because like, one of my best friends here in St. Louis, it's like 32 years old, black guy, and like, he's the guy who got me into the hobby, and he has a very different relationship with all of this. Like, we've talked about him being on the show just so I can be like, what's it been like? You worked at Games Workshop. Like, tell me your nerd history and hobby history through this, because his conversations are dramatically different, and the way that people talk to him are dramatically different. And it's kind of shocking to hear some of it. And, he's never put up with any of it, but it's still like, it's
out there.
Yeah. That, the people talk down to him all the time, and he's like the most read on the lore of the people that I know.
Nice.
Like, he's not just here because it's a job. He's here because it's his passion. It's very interesting. So, before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say, promote, like any final words that you want to do? I really appreciate you sitting here and talking with me, and I want you to get on with nice Thai dinner, which sounds fantastic right now.
So excited, right? Right. Oh, the Penang curry! It's so, I love all the curries except for yellow curry. I don't know why. Like, the potato thing. I don't know, but yeah, green and red curry is my jam.
Nice.
But yeah, I guess first off, want to thank you, Heath, so much for having me. In the murder basement. Always a pleasure to hang out in the murder basement.
Yes,
Said no one. No, I'm kidding. But no, this has been so much fun. Just a great casual conversation. And, we talk about painting on Twitch all the time, and people can ask me questions on Twitch. I do invite folks to follow me. I'm at Mocha_minis on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. You can go to mochaminis.com, see previous work that I've done, commission information. But yeah, I've got a facebook.com/mochaminis, all one word, because you can't use underscores. I don't know why. Thanks, Facebook.
Right. Thanks, Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, but just knowing that I love to paint miniatures, and I love to kind of create that positive, overly caffeinated bubble. And for anybody that wants to join us there, we would absolutely welcome you. And it's a safe and a happy place. And you don't have to have caffeine. You can drink your decaf tea. We will not judge. But yeah. But just, great shout out to Heath and what he's doing, having these great conversations where you get to know the people behind the webcam a little bit better. Yeah. So this was a lot of fun, Heath. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you could do it, and I'm glad that everything lined up, because I've ever since I first saw you, I was just like, I don't I don't understand how someone can be like this. Like, and I don't understand how someone can be like this right now, because like I sometimes just struggle getting out of bed. I'm like, this day is not happening. And then like I would hop on your stream like, holy crap. Like everybody's happy. It's like, it's a little slice of magic. And that's something that I don't think you can get anywhere else but Twitch. And I really appreciate that is what you've given, besides just like being interesting and entertaining. That sort of attitude is infectious, and thank you for passing that energy along. I think that's way important these days.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That is honestly, the biggest compliment that you could give me, because I work for that. I sometimes do have tough days where it is hard to get out of bed because I'm human, and the climate here is scary. But yeah. I tell you what, when we go live, it's a magical thing, and I have to, give thanks to our community for upholding that, because I don't do it alone, and that's the great thing about the live streams.
That's so awesome. Well, Mocha, thank you so much. Go have some awesome dinner, hang out with your friends. Thank you. Thank you for this. And we'll do this again. We'll talk again, in a couple months, and see where we're at. See where we're at later in coronavirus land.
That sounds good. Hopefully I finished some minis by then, right?
If you don't, at least you've had a good time,
There you go. That's true.
Got to stay positive.
And again, happy belated birthday to Mallory. It's International Mallory Day. We will mark our calendars.
That's right. July 9th. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night, Mocha. I really appreciate this.
Thanks to you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Hobby Time in the Murder Basement. I so appreciate your support. If you want to see more hobby content, hop on over to twitch.tv/Heath Aldrich to see all of your fun hobby content streaming whenever I get a free chance. If you like listening to these episodes in more of a podcast form, I should be on all of your favorite podcasting apps. Make sure that you like and subscribe to me there. If you can, leave me a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it. Have a nice rest of your day, and we'll be talking to you soon.